So this is the historian's craft. He looked really good. It looks enjoyable. Let's have a gander.
Problem number 1.
Problem number 2 is that if a secret order of shadow warriors actually did exist, they very likely would not be too keen on manuals or some other form of text or information generally being known to anyone other than themselves.
Right, that's an assumption. It's assumed they're a secret order. They are not a secret order. They not at all. In fact, Japan is not built like that. What you have is different samurai clans across Japan who actually have secrets within their family. And this is absolutely all over Japan. You'll get people, secrets at bridge building, secrets at sort of like spearmanships. Basically, every family in Japan, I've been inking. Every family in Japan had their own little secrets for this and secret manuals and documents. It's no different that the ninja in the certain families were around this area sort of job. Would basically here will have secrets of the way of the ninja. That's it. There is nothing in history to say it is a secret ninja organization. I don't know if it's just one of those errors, but he says here he has the ninja manuals and lineages from the 18th and 19th century. This is not 18th or 19th century. This is like, 17th century, but it's 1676. So the war's only really ended in the sort of 1630s when you got Shimabara, the revolt at Shimabara. They're still literally using shinobi and that type of thing. In fact, I think from memory there is a reference to how one ninja just couldn't get in and I think he fell into a trap or something like that, or he was captured. So, you know, the idea that they're all later is just not. He talks about invented traditions, and I'm not saying he's wrong, but he does use bushido as an invented tradition. I'm not too. I did a book called The Book of Bushido, and I'll be honest with you, what I found is that there was always been a chivalric code, not specifically called bushido, but it existed, and the term Mushi no Michi, the way of the warrior, goes right back to the 1400s. And there's clearly a code of honor among samurai. Obviously, it's not how we all imagine in the Disney sense, but I don't think Bushido was an invented tradition. I think it was just a layered tradition where it was very much used later on in the Neo-Confucian times to mean, you know, be chivalric towards your lord and all this sort of stuff. So I don't think it was an invented tradition. I think it was a reused tradition for modern politics at the time. He also says here that basically the idea that their late Edo period makes them extremely suspect. I really don't believe this. This is not him right, me wrong or anything like that. This is just one of those belief things. Japan didn't know they were in like the what stage they were in. They knew there'd been wars before, but they didn't think, oh, we're going to end in like 1868. They never knew that. So as far as they're concerned, the samurai were going to last forever. They've lasted for 1,000 years before them and 1,000 years after sort of job. They thought they would, you know, because they used to go back to, they pushed their history right back to ancient Chinese stuff, and they never thought, oh, you know, let's just make this up now. They had real jobs to do. They literally had a job assigned to them inside of the government, and if they didn't, their family had to maintain a profession. And a lot of them, their profession was shinobi. I have only ever come across 1 or 2 really suspect ninja manuals. One of them was the 1950s, so it's obviously not a samurai one, but the other one just is too, I don't know why it would be ninja, it just claims it's ninja and it's not, and it appears to be late 1800s. But I've not come across any manual that really deemed it's sort of became suspect. It was like, some people say, oh, that's magic, that's not going to work. Yeah, whether it works or not is irrelevant. It's did they believe it worked? If somebody believes it works, then that's what they believe. If they say, oh, I'm going to lie, I'm going to make this up and just pass it on. Now, there is another element to this to make it suspect. It's nothing to do with that it's ninja. It's to do with making money. The Edo period, the samurai need to make money, and no matter what it was, basically, that, you know, they need to make money. So they may have made stuff up. Now, here he talks about how the Japanese have produced it from a university perspective. I'm going to be honest with you, I know the people in the university. I've spoken to them, I've been for dinner with them, and as respectful as I can be, I'm not impressed. I'm just not impressed. They're doing like farming skills. One guy's learning how to farm. It's like, what? Because the ninjas were half farmers. That's just not true. That is a misunderstanding from the Iranki manual, which in about 1650 or roughly 1600 something is written about the wars of Oda Nobunaga, and it says how they farm half in the day and do ninjutsu in the afternoon because their livelihood was taken away by Nobunaga taking over. So so basically they had to farm out of necessity because their land had been usurped by another clan. The fact is, when they were in their heyday of ninja, they were not farming, they were literally doing ninjutsu, and the farmers farmed. But that is a whole complex story, but that is an often misunderstood thing. So what you've got to be careful here, guys, is Japanese. I have, without being too blunt, unlike me of course, is Japanese tourism allegedly pays for Japanese universities to do things on ninja. That the university doesn't pay for it, is what I've heard in the background. And then can you guess what type of things they want displaying then? Yes, it's a mixture of politics in the background with Japanese research. All right, guys, I'm watching this video here, which is called Land of the Tiger's Mouths, Understanding the Iga Koka, or Koga, Phenomenon and the Birth of the Ninja. So I've been sent this. I've never seen it before. Let's have a look, see if it's any good or any not. Let me find out who it's by. Right, guys, here he's talking about the breakdown of central government and the sort of everybody coming together in Iki. He's got a great knowledge of it. This is wonderful. This is superb. But it's one of those things where it's not about the history, it's more about our perception. We imagine samurai as samurai, but there is times when the samurai were in high power, low power, against religious orders, independent. It's a difficult one to even explain or put into words. But it's people like, oh, they're not samurai because of this, they're not samurai. They considered themselves samurai. They had estates, they had servants, they had slaves, they had all sorts going on. You know, slavery is a difficult one in Japan as well. Where is the end of slavery in Japan? And it is hard to explain. There's nothing wrong here. What he says is perfectly correct. What I'm trying to say is, from the idea, you've got to imagine the people of Koka, they own massive farmhouses. They have probably an extended family. They come together as a people, dressed as samurai, looking like samurai, fighting like samurai. They are, in essence, samurai. We know from the rules of Iga, rules of Koka around there, I'll have to get you the precise ones, that they say if an Ashigaru does well, we'll promote him to samurai. They are samurai, but it's only because of what we think a samurai is, the term changes sometimes. Right, this has come up a few times. He's talking about how Iga is a mountainous area, yeah, and you sort of get a mountain ring. And it is, you know, everybody's got this idea it's this mountainous area. Now, I've been there to Iga about 20 times, and I'm going to be honest with you, it's not that mountainous. It's like you could have a bimble over the hill. It's not a big problem. Yes, it's probably been deforested, etc., etc. But we know there was also main routes in and out. And if I'm not wrong, I'm not sure, I'm doing this from memory, there is a famous pottery from Iga. The poet Basho is from Iga. He wanders out. It's not as if you couldn't get into Iga. It's not this fortified place. There's literally roads going in and out. It goes to like the capital and things like that, and people were, you know, theatres were coming out of there and going back. Pottery was going in and there and coming back. This idea that it was almost inaccessible is just not true. There was literally, you could go down the highway and get out of Iga. You know, yes, if you wanted to find a really hard mountain pass, you probably could, but why not just go down the highway and go to the next town? That's pretty much how it is, and how it was back then. They were not as isolated as everybody makes out. They were rural, and probably nobody really needed to go there, but, you know, they could get out and they could export pottery, export theatre, all that type of stuff. Because we've got, I think if I'm remembering rightly, we've got a book of a translation of a professional theatre troupe who actually come from Iga or Koka or this area. And you get, of course, Basho from there, and you get famous pottery from there. Now, we've gone into the area where he himself says it's just sort of guesswork and we're not quite sure. He says, why are the people of Iga and Koka good at ninja? We just don't know. We don't know. But he says the idea of them being mountainous, which they are mountainous regions, you know, gives the idea of them having to hunt, stay still, clandestine warfare. The problem is that they're all like the pop great bits of ninja. Actually, a lot of ninjutsu is based on spying. So a lot of the stuff from there is spying, is disguise and all that. So there's no reason why the mountainous area would add to any of the Sun Tzu's spying, espionage, things like that. There's no reason for it. Yes, it would be helpful in guerrilla warfare, but only mountainous guerrilla warfare. It doesn't really change anything if you're in flat land or anything like that. So I'm going to say I'm not a fan of this theory, But it's a theory or a hypothesis, and I don't have a better answer for it. We just don't. Now, he goes on here about the Akuto, the people who are surrounding the place, and, you know, the bandits in the forest and all that. And they are a real thing. They really are. But this is the idea of highway robbery. We just assume that they live in the forest and you're walking through the forest. It's just not true. They like, you know, there were highways in and out of Eager. You know, depending on how you assume highway is, but it's like anything in medieval times. You want to go along in a caravan, you want to go along in a bit of protection. This is the idea. If you're going alone, or there's just a few of you walking around on the roads back in the day, you're probably going to get robbed by highwaymen. So you've got to be careful, of course, of these Japanese terms. They sound great and everything it is, but it's basically bandits, thieves, robbers will come and get you. So they band together because they, you know, getting out of hand. Central power is lost, which he's talking about, and everything. They're getting out of hand, so they have to cut. The local samurai have to come together, and the local, like, you know, basically high-end farmers come together and sort of help sort them out. So nothing wrong there, just clarifying. Now, he says here that many of the ninja manuals are written from the mid to the late portion. That's not true. This of the Edo period. Now, this is a problem because he is right, many of them were, but that's misleading in saying that all of them were, all the military. We have manuals. Well, first of all, the Shinobi Hiden is the chapters 1 and 3 or something like that are dated to 1560. And the reason it's chapter 1 and 3 is because somebody compiled it later, or so it's believed. But we also have, I've got scrolls from 1634, was definitely early. Then you've got, you know, it depends what your class is mid. For me, 1600 is early. 17 is mid and 1800 is late. That, you know, realistically. But we do, and then you got the Gunpo Jyoshu, which has 3 manuals of ninja on it, which can't be written any later than 1612. So the idea of having they're all late is just not right, guys. He's just talks about Doshin, those of the same mind and those who come together. Great new information for me. I didn't know this, and which because it's a struggle to actually place where Doshin go in a military unit. So Yoriki as side captains, Doshin are those of the same mind. It is a difficult one to do when they have a military place. So it is difficult because they are referred to as Doshin, and later Doshin are lower class, half samurai if you like. So it was some really good information there. He's talking about the Hattori Hanzo coming over and everything, and it's sort of, it's a brilliant mini documentary, this, guys. I very, very much would say watch it. It really is good. But he seems to believe that the ninja is as an identity, and that is again a difficult question. But basically, there is no ninja identity. There's no ninja clan. There's no ninja this. You know, like you're saying, Hattori Hanzo wasn't a ninja. But this becomes an issue because one, the word ninja only really comes into fruition at the turn of the Sengoku to Edo period, around that time when unification comes in. Before that, people are known as by different things. And two, they're samurai or ashigaru or military men who are being used, given some sort of reward for their skills in espionage, spying, etc. So you wouldn't see Hattori Hanzo as a ninja. It just wouldn't be there. People are looking for assassination. They're looking for ninja as an identity, suppose. But really, it's a sub-identity. They're samurai first, practicing ninja. It's like, I'm English, I'm from Manchester, I'm an author. You know what I mean? Which one's my identity? You know what I mean? That's the problem. We're looking for maybe, or, you know, Anthony was an author and he knew other authors, so there's a secret, you know, order of authors. It's like, no, there's, you know, that's not how it works, sort of job. So he's talking here about how, you know, like we said before, people needed jobs, they were demilitarized, like, you know, you can't share any land anymore, so people are starting to make stuff up. Now, this becomes a problem for me, because when you look at the ninja manuals across the board, yes, we have a connection, but they're secret. They're considered secret. They're passed on to only a handful of people. Yet if you collect them all together and put them side by side, they don't really tell different things. They're not massively different. If, say, 50 people were to make up a ninja tradition across Japan over 200 years in the Edo period from different places, you would expect vastly different things. But they're not. It's like how to move underwater, how to move through water, Sun Tzu's spies, how to make a torch, how to make powders, how to infiltrate at night, lock-picking skills. They're literally and very similar. Obviously, some have interaction with each other, but most of them don't. They're not copies from each other, and and as we know, they were kept within families. So the idea that, say, 100 families made up a tradition and they all just happen to coincidentally be very similar, I think is almost impossible. What's more realistic is that they were adapted, moved, glorified. And he's talking here about how people used to use tales of ancient water, glorified. Yep, you could. I have actually, when I did the Book of Ninja Bansen Shukai audiobook, I went through and stripped out every story, every Chinese tale, and it knocked it back to about 50%. So basically, the Bansen Shukai, which is an attempt to get employment in the Edo period, is about 50%. Hey, look how cool the Chinese were. We're cool too. But when you strip it down, that's still 50%. It's still 250 pages in English about actual skills, which were very similar to skills written before it, written after it, in different places, but were not copies of each other. So that's got to be taken into account. He's also talking about the idea of kabuki theatre here being, what is it? Kabuki theatre trying to give you the idea of the ninja uniform. I am so against this theory. I don't know where it came from. And there's no historical evidence for it. There's no logical reason for it. I think, and I can't guarantee this, but I think there are actually Edo period plays with shinobi in them. I'd have to get this checked. And they don't wear the kabuki theatre. It'd be stupid, wouldn't it? One actor playing the shinobi, who's the guy in the black. And it just doesn't make sense. It's more realistic that Edo period thieves known as Nusabito and Tozoku, which is, one of them is drawn by Hokusai and then is dressed in black. We know that people wore black. We know that people wore masks. We know that thieves wore masks. What's more plausible? That somebody jumping over your wall to steal your chickens or whatever, wearing a mask, would then reflect the ninja who were jobless thieves? Or some guy sat in a kabuki who looked at a kabuki theatre and went, hey, I think that guy looks like a ninja. Let's make that the ninja image. It just doesn't pan out. So he's just saying that the people were peasants. I just don't agree with this. We absolutely know the ninja, the Iko Iki had, they were samurai level, and there was no ninja peasants. That seems to have come from the Iranki later on. So again, the argument for a ninja being ashigaru, being samurai, being thieves, thugs, is difficult because people just hide people for different reasons and from different social backgrounds. Right, guys, this is the guy's channel, The Historian's Craft. He's got 121,000 subscribers. He's done videos on all sorts. So I think he's done a great job. I think the documentary was wonderful. I learnt some new things. I've put me in the idea to go to some new areas to research. There's a few things there, obviously. I don't know how much he used my research, I'm not sure. But there's a few things in there which I would be dubious about, but that's only because it's a dubious subject. Ninja, that's why I do what I do, guys. I do what I do because the history of the ninja is so dubious that I've had to do it. So get yourself a copy of one of my books. So I've just put out this one, Zen and the Samurai Sword, Japanese warrior techniques for agility, clarity and calm. So do get yourself a copy, which will really, really help me out. And I'm looking forward to your comments below. The video will be linked below.